Now what about tantrums? We want children to understand that tantrums are not appropriate behavior. There are other ways to deal with your frustration and anger. One thing to do is to try to teach children how to control their anger. If they can count, you can teach them to count to 10. And if they can count beyond that, you can teach them to count to 100. There is a famous saying from Thomas Jefferson, if you think you're going to lose your temper, count to 10. If 10 is, 10 is not enough, count to 100. Or maybe there's another thing, gee, you might give children a clay ball and they can squeeze the ball if they're upset about something. In some preschools, they have a tank of fish. If you're upset, you sit and watch the fish swim around until your spirit calms down. So one thing we do is to teach kids to control their temper. Another thing which you can do is to simply make a plan. Say, if you have a tantrum, this is what's going to happen. I'm going to take you to your room, and you have to stay in your room until you're finished having a tantrum. So, you know, I'll give you a reminder. I'll hold up my hand as a signal that, you know, this is what will happen. If you keep throwing your tantrum, then off you go to your room. Sometimes parents have found that it can work to totally ignore the tantrum. Kids throwing a tantrum, you just walk away. You go to another room. Or you pick up a magazine and turn your back. And the child has no audience. That can also be effective. So still another strategy. Now, what if you're in a public place? Kid has a temper tantrum in the restaurant or the supermarket. Get out of the public place. Take your child outside to a private area and then tell them to settle down, stop the tantrum, and you can even use physical restraint. One restraint position is to put the child on your lap, like this. You lock your legs across the child in the front, you put your arms across the front, and then you just rock them and say, settle down, calm down, settle down, calm down, and you bring your child down from the tantrum. If you can catch the child before the tantrum goes into full swing, so much the better. Some children get really worked up, and then it takes longer to bring them down out of it. So those are a few thoughts about controlling tantrums. But anticipate the problem ahead of time. If you had it before, then you talk to the child about it, and you treat it as a problem-solving challenge. This is not acceptable behavior. It's not an appropriate way to express frustration or anger, and we want you to stop. You have to learn to control this. Let's make a plan. How can you avoid it? Here's how to control your anger. If you lose your temper, here's what happens. So those are some thoughts about dealing with temper and